to begin.
Okay. So Lele, a while ago we were discussing. Let's now talk about the other big elephant in the room, which is the economy. It's as big as it can get, and there are concerns that things are not really moving in the right direction. But before talking about the Maharlika Sovereign Wealth Fund and these latest numbers on the BSP and the sustainability of Maharlika Sovereign Wealth Fund, because if things go wrong in the Maharlika Sovereign Fund or semi-wrong, this is going to be weaponized by the enemies of the government, including one faction of the ruling elite, supposedly. But Lele, you were saying something. Is there a parallel between opposition integration and DDS integration? Well, the opposition doesn't have a Digong who doesn't want to go away, and they don't have a vice president, and they don't have a superpower backup. So I think that more or less...
Mas mahirap. Mas
talaga. And
mas matagal bago magunaw. Sabi ko kasi yung Dilawan ang bilis nagunaw, di ba? And I think my question is, can we use that as a way to think about yung future ng DDS? Kasi there are, on the face of it, merong similarities kagaya nung yung mga Chaleco liberal na nalagas from the Liberal Party, ngayon yung mga Chaleco PDP laban, meaning Chaleco, nagtatanggal ng Chaleco, magpapalit ng Chaleco, di ba? Nalalaga sila from PDP laban as well. So may ganung similarity, pero tama nga, surface level yun.
Ako sa tingin ko,
talaga yung DDS to begin with.
Mas malakas talaga ang DDS.
In one sense, Leloy. Yeah, in one sense, Leloy, ay totoo yun. But you're talking about politicians. That because of our political system, talagang mauubos yan. Pag hindi na ikaw yung, or hindi na kayo yung presidente. Dahil very strong yung
bandwagoning. Presidential bandwagoning.
So yun yung isa. Pero in one sense, tignan mo yung 15-16 million votes ng Pink Lawan. Tignan mo yung voluntarism, tignan mo yung huge rallies. Nasabi ko nga kay Randy David, Randy, ngayon lang ako nakakita ng ngayon since EDSA. Yung ganyan, 1.2 million, no? 700,000. Sunod-sunod Sunod-sunod ang mga rally. Hindi ito yung mga maghihintay ka ng taon para sunod-sunod, no? Tapos nakikita mo, pumunta kasi ako earlier doon sa mga kwan. Nakita mo yung gumagawa ng sariling costumes, gumagawa ng sariling placards, naghihintay ng 10 to 12 hours. This is something else, no? Ikaw ba maghihintay ka ng 10 to 12 hours para sa isang kandidato? So ibig sabihin, ang naging problema dyan ay hindi na harness. Hindi nabigyan ng direksyon. Hindi nabigyan ng leadership.
Leadership, exactly. While still
ibig sabihin, it's there. No? Ang sinasabi ko lang, it's there, na sayang. No?
But Ronald, I want to ask you, I want to ask, sorry, I think we already discussed that to a certain degree. No, we had so many episodes on what was lacking with opposition, but I was thinking about something else also, and Lele, I want to also get your point on this. Like, to what degree was that explosion of support for Lenny also because you had the possible return of Marcos plus Duterte's, you know what I'm saying? It was like double whammy threat. So parang, to what degree was this really about loving Lenny and the opposition and hating that not only a Duterte will be still around, but the Marcos will come back? Do you get what I'm saying? Kasi my thinking is, was that also negative solidarity as much as possible?
Sa tingin ko, naging successful din yung counter-authoritarian nostalgia efforts within a certain class of the Philippines. Kasi for 2010, sa tingin ko mga 2010, nagsimula yung mga pro-Marcos blogs, di ba? Nag-react talaga yung mga certain elite institutions at saka mga universities na talagang binombard yung mga estudyante with facts about the Marcos period. And nasa Ateneo tayo ng panahon na yan, may marami tayong kaibigan sa UP, sa Lasal, talagang umarangkada ang martial law education. And I think for our particular generation, lalo na yung generation na nag-late high school, nag-college from let's say 2010 to 2020, ang dami niyang alam about martial law dahil kumambyo talaga yung mga educators. And then obviously nag-cascade yan. Pero within a particular class yan. Within a particular class and within a particular educational bracket. Pero siguro talagang nag-init sila dahil ang dami lang natutunan over the past 10 years. In a way, we shouldn't also super blame yung academics, yung mga kagaya natin, mga activists.
You're right. Can you say about that more? Yeah, can you say about that more?
Counter-propaganda during ditong panahon na to. Dahil talaga marami naman talaga tayong ginawa. Mahirap lang talaga yung kalaban. But there is a base na na-educate nung 10 years na yun. Kasi pumalag naman yung mga tao. I mean, tignan mo lang yung mga librong nasulat ng panahon na yun. Ang daming memoirs. May Tibak Rising, merong yung Kimpo memoir, ang daming mga volume, ganyan. So hindi naman nagkulang na materyales at ng effort.
Hindi tayo nagkulang, Lelo. I mean, we did our best talaga.
Kaya nga. Kaya nga, may weakness din talaga yung campaign. Halimbawa, too late na nagpasya yung kandidato eh. Practically nagpasya yung kandidato on the eve of the filing. Diba? Habang yung mga
Deadline of filing, I think.
habang yung mga kalaban matagal nang naghahanda, no? Ikalawa, no? Ikalawa, yung strategy sa campaign. Kung titingnan mo yung campaign ni BBM tsaka ni Sara, no? Halos halos one issue lang eh, yung dala-dala. Habang yung campaign ni Lenny very cluttered, no? Ang daming messages, no? Ang daming kwan. So makikita mo yung strength ng isang single message compared to ang daming messages, no? So yun yung
Right.
one.
I want to ask you this. I'll go back to Leloy first. What if Leloy, it might turn out actually the opposite of what I was saying? Maybe actually the pink might turn out more historically resilient than the DDS phenomenon. And once the father is gone, this might not be so strong, while the pink movement has a long-term, kasi the seeds have been planted. I'm seeing it in the comment section. Some are actually pushing back. I actually agree with that. That's a possibility.
That's exactly what I meant. No?
Yeah,
that's exactly
Leloy, and then we'll go to Ronald. Yeah.
Well,
Actually, it's the opposite. Malakas ang...
historically, sasabihin mo na talagang malakas kasi nagsimula ka 86 eh. In a way, meron talagang ganyang klaseng base na yung liberal middle class and also religious, kind of religious base. Ito yung mga makakori pa. Tsaka marami, syempre, ito sa nagpunta dun sa kay Lenny, mga anak, mga apo, nung mga galing dun sa original Yellow Movement. And I remember early on pa lang nung si Marcos, for example, daming rally nung nalibingan ng mga bayani si Marcos. Ang dami mong nakikita doon sa Ayala. Pag kinakausap mo sila, sasabihin nila sa'yo, dito kami nagsimula nung 80s, nagpapamudbud kami ng yellow confetti, bumabalik kami ngayon, kasama namin yung mga anak namin. So talagang yung base yan, totoo yan. At historically, makapangyarihan. So, kung mag-zoom out ka, baka sabihin mo, actually, well, from 86 onwards, makapangyarihan sila. And then there was this, we could, in 20 years, we could look back at this moment and say na baka blip yung panahon ni Duterte na mahina yung base. Mahina yung base na yan. And then when you zoom out, baka sobrang lakas pala. Ewan natin.
Ikaw, Ronald, do you think this is actually part of a rebirth transition for the opposition? A more progressive, more Riza Hontiveros-ish version coming out.
Tama yun. Tama yung sinasabi ni Leloy. Pero kung i-deconstruct natin, yung bumoto at nagpanalo historically dito kay BBM at saka kay Sara, these are basically the D&E. So it also reflects yung weakness ng ating EDSA institutions in leveling the playing field para sa mga mahihirap. No, itong mga mahihirap, ang tingin nila wala namang masyadong difference eh.
Yeah. Economic justice, social justice.
So yun yung vulnerability na in-exploit ng mga reactionary forces. Wala kayong maaasahan diyan sa mga yan, no? Kami naman, no? Ganun yung bahagi ng kanilang narrative eh. Kami naman, mismo yung nostalgia ay nakadikit doon eh, no? Na sinabi na, noong panahon nung matandang Marcos, mas maganda ang ekonomiya, mas maganda ang inyong kalagayan. Ito, sobrang mga bata na, hindi na malalaman yun, hindi na na-check eh. No? Tapos, syempre, meron kang isang popular na digong, no? Na sinakyan din yung ganong klaseng narrative. Dinemonize yung lahat ng mga dilaw or pink or reformist during his 6 years. No? During his 6 years. Demonize talaga ng husto. At bakit na-demonize? Dahil yung DNE, ang tingin, ay wala naman nagbago sa aming economic situation. Hindi naman wala naman nagbago sa aming social services, sa aming kahit meron na nagbago, no, hindi dramatic. At saka vulnerability nila.
Ronald, I think yung isang mga pinakaunang nag-point out dito yung kaibigan natin si Sir July Tihanki. Hindi lang DNE it's also an element of yung lower middle class na ascendant, na galit, na may element na aspirational, nakarating na kami dito, yumaman na kami, pero bakit ang baba pa rin ang tingin nyo sa amin? May ganong klaseng
may iPhone na, may kotse na, nagka-call center.
Kaya actually tingnan mo yung mga vlog early on. Kasi si Duterte, 'di ba? He was the president who appointed the most number of Supreme Court judges na hindi galing sa UP or Ateneo. May mga galing Ateneo de Davao, may mga galing San Beda. At kung tignan mo yung mga vlog, talaga yung discourse doon is kami naman over yung Big Four. May ganon. May ganong element.
Elite, the counter
so even within the middle class, may na-harness na distinctions and actually very potent force yung middle class sa Pilipinas. Tandaan natin na ang Katipunan, for example, was a kind of lower middle class force. The Philippine Revolution was formed by a lower middle class force. Dahil yung mga tipong kagaya ni Bonifacio, galit siya sa Kastila, pero galit din siya dun sa traditional elite na namamayagpag. Kasi feel niya mahina yung traditional elite na yun eh. So kaya itong lower middle class force ito, sila yung namayagpag ng Philippine Revolution. May potency yung lower middle class sa atin eh.
It was also a perfect storm dahil yung malaking bahagi ng lower middle class na sinasabi mo are OFWs eh. Diba? Mga OFW to. Kahit saan pumunta kang bansa, overwhelming yung support ng OFW kay Digong. No?
And their family.
Overwhelming, no?
Their family kasi maliit lang yung voting ng
perfect storm dahil
yeah.
nakuha ni Digong yung kanilang fears at saka concern para sa mga pamilya nila rito. Crime, no? Drugs, no? Kahit walang nagawa si Digong para solusyonan yan, yung mantra na sasagipin ko ang inyong mga pamilya, sasagipin ko ang inyong mga anak, no, na lulun sa drugs, no? Poprotektahan namin ang inyong mga magulang sa mga petty criminals, no? Hindi makalabas ng maaga, etc. So, nakadagdag yan eh, yung ganyan klaseng mantra with Digong. At siya yung perfect na kandidato. Diba? Siya yung perfect na kandidato, nakakatawan dyan sa ganyang klaseng fears and insecurity. No? Yan yung, kaya sinasabi ko perfect storm eh. Yung
naalala ko, ito hindi ko talaga makalimutan, day na na-elect si Duterte. Meron kasi, ando ka ata sa Political Science Department on Richard eh. Meron tayong colleague na ang undergrad niya, San Beda, ang postgrad niya, tapos nagturo siya sa Ateneo. Tapos sabi niya sa amin, hindi nyo lang talaga maintindihan yung San Beda mentality dito. Kasi lahat ng presidente galing Ateneo at UP. Ako galing ako San Beda, hindi mo alam kung gaano kami galit, kung gaano kagalit kami sa inyo, at gaano ka-importante to para dun sa mindset na yun. I'll never forget that eh.
So doon mo nakuha yung sinabi mo sa akin. You had a different version of saying it, but yeah, I mean, we had exactly the same take, no? This is the quad or non-top 3 elite of the Philippines, di ba? Ikaw, UST ka, di ba, Ronald?
Hindi lang kasi niya, yung point ko dito napakasimple, hindi lang niya hinati yung D at saka E. Hindi lang niya hinati yung D at E versus A and B.
Hinati niya yung B.
Yung middle class, hinati niya yung B. Hinati niya yung B.
B to eh, B na yan eh, hindi na C to. Ronald, kayo mga taga-UST, meron ba kayong galit sa mga taga-Lasal?
Actually, pag tinignan mo numbers, Leloy, yung A and B, ay dominant si Digong. No, dominant si Marcos sa A, B. Mas malaki lang yung dominance niya sa D and E. No, mas malaki lang kaya 31 million eh, no. Pero yung mismo yung A, B and C, no, ay panalo si Digong at saka panalo si BBM, no. Yung boto ni Lenny na 15 to 16, yan din yung boto ni Pinoy noong 2010, no? So, ibig sabihin, parang ito yung base na ito at hindi nakalabas ng value added. No? Tama yung sabi mo, ito na yung mga dating magkakasama eh. Ito na yung dating galit eh. No? Ang problema, walang nadagdag. Lalo na sa D&E. Halimbawa, nanonood kami ng debate, nandiyan kami sa UP Hotel, no? Andun lahat yung pag nagsasalita sila Lenny, palakpakan yung mga estudyante, palakpakan yung mga kwando, no? Ang ginawa namin ni Louie Coral, Louie, tawagin natin yung mga waiters. Tinawag namin, no? Tinanong namin sila, isa-isa. Sinong iboboto nyo? Iboboto nila si BBM. No? Kaya makikita mo sa UP, sa UP Hotel, makikita mo yung class divide. No? Yun yung... So, sa susunod, kailangan natin tignan how to consolidate itong pink, how to harness them into a strong organization. Pero paano mababalue added? Paano madadagdagan yan galing sa D&E? No? Walang maayos na strategy yung campaign last time.
Babalik na ako. Meron ding element talaga ng sortihan sa ekonomiya. Yung original topic natin, Richard. Meron element ng sortihan. Kasi and ito yung diferensya ni Marcos at saka ni Duterte. Yung ang pumasok si Duterte, he was poised to engender economic reform dahil laki ng surplus. Tapos mababa yung interest rate. Maganda yung credit rating ng Pilipinas. So, kung mababa yung interest rate, meaning maraming pwedeng makautang, lalago yung ekonomiya, ganyan. Maganda yung credit rating, meaning yung gobyerno pwedeng mangutang at pwedeng gumasta. At pangatlo, ang laki ng surplus kasi nga anti-corruption yung platform ni Noynoy. Ayaw gumasta. In fact, ang accusations...
1 trillion yung savings na binigay kay Digong.
So pagpasok ni Digong, naalala mo, sabi ni Diokno, the Aquino government criminally underspent. Instead na pasalamatan ang Aquino government na nag-underspend at binigyan sila ng pera, tinawag na kriminal. Okay. Effectively, pag-amin yun on the party secretary Diokno, malaki pera namin. Marami kami pwedeng gawin dito, di ba? Kasi criminally underspent daw. Yun yung accusation niya kay Butchabad, his predecessor. So, kaya nga, nung first 3 years ni Digong, first 4 years ni Digong, sabi nga ni Charmaine, and again, babalikan itong pag-aaral to, Charmaine Ramos, highest levels of social spending in the post-EDSA period. And by social spending, I think she defines it as education, health, and may isa pa, education, health, something similar, kung ano man yung mga things na ginagasto ng DSWD. So, hindi kayang gawin ni Marcos yon. Kasi, una, mas malaki na utang mo, yung credit rating mo hindi kasing lakas. Post-pandemic ka, so mas maliit talaga yung pie. Pangatlo, ang taas ng interest rate regime dahil nagtataas ng interest rate ang US, nagtataas ng interest rate ang central bank. So hindi mo kaya magpamudmud ng pera as much as nung panahon ni Digong. And that I think explains why hindi kasing Teflon si BBM ni Digong dahil yung economic circumstances are not similar, are very dissimilar.
Because hindi nauna si Aquino sa kanya. I mean, which, okay, I think we can stop there and go to the final.
Dagdag lang ng konti, Richard, para
you want to make sure you don't want to bring this to the next episode kasi medyo mahaba.
Para lang supportahan yung sinabi ni Leloy.
Okay, go ahead.
Nung survey, nung December 2020, 2020, I'm not sure, 2020, nung nag-91% si Digong, no? 91%. Nung tinignan namin yung reason doon sa survey, ayuda. No? Ibig sabihin talagang yung social spending para sa ayuda lumaki as never before. At naging source yan nung record high na 91% approval rating. Yun yung, at doon mahihirapan ngayon si BBM.
But again, Ron, my problem with that kind of tactical situation explanation is that he held 80 to 90% approval through and through. I mean, that guy never went down to 60-70%. So I don't think we can explain it by just ayuda or by just West Philippines. He had really a kind of a structural, phenomenal kind of charisma.
Of course.
Charisma rin.
Kaya nga yung point ko, malakas ang DDS for the foreseeable future. I think they're stronger than the Dilawan or Pink, whatever you want to call them. But I agree. So I'm actually not contradicting myself fully. So I'll stand by my word that Leloy, I think in the short to medium term, mas malakas ang DDS kaysa Pink. But the Pink has more potential for, if it goes down to marathon in 10 to 20 years, I think the potential is very strong. So in that sense, I think we have a more or less agreement. Diba? I mean, yeah.
And it's a division ng unity team.
And it's because ano bang mas cult of personality, yung DDS o yung Pink? Sa tingin ko, yung Pink ang mas yung DDS ang mas cult of personality.
How dare you, moral equivalent.
Mas reliant on the leader. Hindi na at mas mahirap ipasa. Siguro kayang ipasa kay Sara pero hindi clear. Yung Dilaw Pink narrative, meron na siyang clear history of the leadership being passed from Cory to Noynoy and then from Noynoy to Lenny. Itong sa DDS hindi ka pa sure kung paano nila ipapasa.
This is a classic authoritarian transition succession problem, right? That's the problem. It doesn't pass from father to daughter necessarily. That's the problem with non-democratic system and also not democratic charisma. Charisma is hard to pass down and to institutionalize.
Yun din naman yung failure ng original Marcos, di ba? Hindi maipasa ni Apo Lakay yung kanyang kapangyarihan. Kaya nag-away-away. Hindi alam kung pupunta ka ba kay Ver, pupunta kay Imelda, kung pupunta kay Enrile. Kaya nag-away-away sila dahil hindi maipasa. Baka yun rin yung mangyayari sa DDS, baka hindi maipasa yung mantle ni Digong kay Sara.
I mean, usually the way it works is you have a number of yes men to be as the transition persons until the next big man comes. So in the case of China, you had Deng Xiaoping choosing Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, two dry, loyal guys. And then Xi Jinping comes and becomes the next big man. So usually parang ganun. And that's what Marcos didn't have. Two stable, reliable people to shepherd the transition. And then before Bongbong Marcos or someone else comes in, and from Digong to Sara, I don't see the transition. But anyway, I think this sets the tone for the last episode we're gonna have for now. Ang dal natin again. Kasi guys, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I just want to make sure I can put the title sa conversation because this is all over the place. Please, sorry. So yung mga nagagalit sa akin na why I interject is because guys, pag editor kayo or gumagawa kayo ng podcast and all, you have to have a title. There should be cut-off point. Otherwise, Joe Rogan na to ng 4 hours, okay? So we're trying to be...
Mataas ang viewership ni Joe Rogan, ha?
Yeah, but we're not trying to compete with him yet. All right, man. Give us 2 more years. No, we'll get that. Thank you so much. Maraming salamat, Ronald.